Hi, everybody. Welcome to Devico Breakfast Bar. Here we speak with different people involved in the business landscape, share their experience, delve into the latest tech trends, and explore the ins and outs of IT outsourcing. I'm Oleg Sadikov, and today I'm excited to have David Shapiro, a visionary, a veteran, director, and CEO with over 35 years of experience and with data analytics and InsureTech companies. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a new episode. David, first of all, nice to meet you. Thanks for joining. Could you please start by telling us a bit about yourself and your professional background?
First of all, Oleg, thank you for having me. It's a real privilege to participate in one of these sessions. I've been following it now for a little bit, and the sessions are interesting, and it's an honor to be speaking aside so many people that were on this podcast. So my name is David Shapiro. I've been now, it's already 40 years in the wonderful world of advanced data analytics software for enterprise organizations. My undergraduate and graduate studies are in mathematics and computer science. I began working in the 1980s as a software engineer, as a programmer. I wasn't a good enough programmer to stay in the programming side, and so I moved over to the dark side, sales, business development, management, and all that kind of stuff. And after 20 or some odd years, took into the role of being a CEO. And today, as Oleg mentioned, I'm a director, I'm an advisor, and co-founder in companies. Of my 40 years in advanced software, the last 20 have all been in insurance, meaning I live, if you want, I work in the intersection of insurance and advanced technology. So I started this when I stumbled upon being the CEO of Ernix in 2006. I had left Click Software. I was a very senior executive vice president, a publicly traded company that we had IPO'd, and I thought I knew everything, and I became the CEO of a small company, Ernix, with about 10, 15 people, not doing a lot of money, maybe $1 million a year. It was in insurance, and I thought as an experienced software engineer, experienced sales executive, business development, I very easily would get in and understand the business. Well, it took me about 3 or 4 years to understand what I don't understand in insurance. And ever since those first 3 or 4 years, which is now almost 15 years, I've been a student of the wonderful world of insurance, and I've fallen in love with it. So at Ernix, what we provided, and the company is still around, doing much larger than when I left it. I left it after 10 years in 2017. The company offers very advanced pricing, sophisticated pricing for property and casualty insurance providers, large ticket items, enterprise systems, very, very advanced software and data analytics and optimization, selling to the C-level business people of insurance companies. This can be chief actuaries, CEOs of insurance companies, which tend to be really, really smart people, very mathematical, very analytical. Many of them have PhDs in mathematics, economics, or physics. And they look at the world by assessing the risk of what they're underwriting. And I have a mathematic background. I couldn't hold a candle next to them in mathematics, but I enjoy mathematics. I come from a family, even though I was born in the United States and I've lived most of my life here in Israel, but my father is German background, and so I'm very, very square, if you want, and very risk averse at heart, even though I'm an entrepreneur. And so I actually understand how these insurance people look at the world. And on the other hand, insurance is underserved by technology. The software systems being run in insurance companies are very, very old, and there's a lot of room to provide additional technology. And there's not really that much technology going in because it takes such a long time to have traction in insurance. Usually the venture money gets bored after a while and leaves. Anyways, after serving 10 years as a CEO of Ernix in early 2017, company was already close to 100 people, doing like 20 times as much when I joined as far as revenue is concerned. I left, and ever since I've been splitting my time between business and pleasure. I'm happily married for 40 years. I have 3 children and 6 grandchildren, so I spend a lot of time with them. Also, I have a lot of hobbies. I surf and paddle surf. I sail different types of boats. I do some volunteering work, and usually I get in quite a lot of skiing, a lot of off-piste skiing. So I was able to do all of that. But I doubled down on InsureTech, or the integration of insurance and technology again. And I co-founded a company called Planck, where I'm sitting right now. If Oleg would have let me open up, you'd see the beautiful skyline of Tel Aviv here behind me, and which was founded by two very, very smart individuals, Elad Sur and Amir Cohen. I met them after I left Ernix, after they had already founded the company, but they let me come on board as the third employee, as a co-founder. I call myself an honorary co-founder because I brought, if you want, the experience from being in the world of insurance, and already have a long track record. Both Elad and Amir are like 20 years younger than me, even more. So this is what I primarily do. I'm a co-founder here. We offer very advanced data analytics and insights to commercial insurance companies, in the United States, in Europe, in Australia, in Japan. In addition to that, I am a director and advisor to either insurance companies using advanced technology or companies providing advanced technology to insurance companies. I was for many years, 5 years, a non-executive director and chairman of the Audit and Risk Committee of ManyPet, which is quite a substantial pet insurer in the UK and the US. Again, I joined when they were small. Now they're a large company. I was a director at a company called Ahoy Insurance, which does recreational marine, insuring yachts. That's close to my heart. And I'm an advisor to a pricing sophistication company called Quanti, which is out of the UK and Poland. And I'm the advisory board of a company called Herald in the United States, which is an API hub sitting between commercial insurers and brokers, and Sayata, which is a very interesting company with both analytics and a hub for commercial insurance. Besides that, I try to keep up to speed with my business friends who manage insurance companies. They used to be my customers, today they're my friends. If I want, I try to be as much in the loop what's happening in large insurance companies. I try to be in touch with many new insurance startups that are offering new things, new technology, the world of insurance, and also to the venture side. My friends are venture capitalists who fund the kind of places where I work. So, Oleg, I apologize for the long answer.
I have only one question. Do we live in the same physical world? You still have 24 hours in a day, right?
First of all, yes, we do. I also, by the way, I like quantum mechanics. We could talk about that. I don't understand it, but I like it. But we do live the same 24 hours, and I don't live in parallel worlds. First of all, I enjoy what I'm doing. I only do what I like doing. And also, the order of magnitude of stress and effort on a CEO, and I've been there, is by order of magnitude less than anything else I'm doing now. Even though, it sounds like a lot. I'm working, 5 or 6 different companies and all these hobbies, but the stress or the workload is much less than I had before. So it's truly, I only do what I like doing, and so I enjoy it. Even though you can see I've lost a lot of hair, it's not always fun. But
thanks for the detailed answer. What inspired you to found Planck, and could you share a little about the journey from conceptualizing the idea to its realization implementation as leading provider of AI-based data analytics for the insurance industry?
That's an excellent question. I think I was very lucky in the context of Planck. I joined Ernix when the company already had existed, even though I knew the founders. And when the company was founded, the concept was founded by insurance people, by a combination of an insurance executive, a CEO of an insurance company, and a very, very talented statistician. And the idea was to improve the sophistication of insurance pricing. And since the pricing or the loss ratios are actually the gross margins, when you manufacture an insurance product, you're basically doing the mathematics of assessing what is the risk of the person issuing a claim. Okay, and so I knew about what they were founding. It wasn't my idea, but it seemed so right, because pricing, mathematics, and then in insurance where the product is the price, more or less. And I ran there for 10 years, and it was extremely interesting, and I got very, very involved with our customers. Again, the customers are very close, stayed with us for a long time, many, many years, even now today, decades, paying us a lot of money every year because they were getting a lot of value. And what we were doing was we were helping them with very advanced statistics based on the data they have about their customers. And one of the biggest challenges was the data is not very good. Insurance companies have an excessive amount of data, probably more than any other industry in the world, but the data is not robust. I'll call it dirty. It's not consistent, and it's very difficult to access this. Many insurance companies, when they have grown by acquisition, but they have not integrated their computer systems. So let's say they sell auto insurance and home insurance and business insurance are all running on different systems. So you're insuring somebody's home and car, but they're not in the same database, so you don't know about them. And if they do, then when they renew, since literally the policy admin system could have been written 30 years ago, it's very difficult to extract the data when you're adding. So the analytics or the pricing is only as good as the data is on the bottom, right? And so we were, if you want, challenged or limited by how good our algorithms would work by the data coming in. So fast forward 10 years, I leave Ernix in February 2017, traveled a bit with my wife and things like that. But in the summer, it must have been in July, I was introduced by a mutual friend, also a technology insurance CEO, to these two young entrepreneurs that founded this company called Planck. By the way, Planck is named after Max Planck, the Planck constant. It's all about quantum mechanics, the resolution of the universe, if you want, the smallest entity that exists. In any event, what they were doing, they came at that time, 6 or 7 years ago, they were in their early 30s, but they had been working for close to 10 years. Well, one of them, Elad, the CEO, had completed his Bachelor of Science in Computer Science before he finished high school and was then in the Israeli Ministry of Defense, where he did very advanced algorithms, AI, working on data about businesses and organizations and people. And when he left the service after about 10 years, he founded a company called Bluetail, which was all about data about businesses. And they were acquired by Salesforce. And today, Bluetail is the key component of Salesforce Einstein. And Elad was 3 years at Salesforce as chief architect of Einstein. And when he left, he wanted to attack the same problem. His father is a very prominent insurance executive, and he wanted to attack the same problem in the world of insurance. So actually, they founded Planck all about providing data, or it's not data, it's insights. It's what the data is built on. They're taking more and more data, aggregating it, and combining from different sources and vision and natural language processing and much, much more. But providing data to an insurance company about underwriting a business. Here I was coming from a decade of being very frustrated about the data, which isn't good enough, or it's good, but it's not. If it could be a little bit better, all these pricing algorithms, underwriting algorithms could be much more efficient, and everything would be good for the consumers, for the customers, and for the insurance companies. And here someone is founding a company like that. So it was just like my dream, and it still is. And I've never looked back. So the idea was not mine. The idea was Elad and Amir's, but it just fit where my frustration was about data. There's so much data, but it's not clean enough, not aggregated enough to really enable these great insurance companies to perform their algorithms and statistics on it. So that's how we founded Planck.
Great. Looking back on your career journey, is there any specific moment or decision that you feel has had the greatest impact shaping who are you today?
Oleg, that's a philosophical question. At my ripe old age, I'm 66 years old. I tried to, my father did a little bit of boxing when he was in college. I roll with the punches, meaning I'm a big believer of enjoying the ride. And maybe the best decision I ever made was I want to enjoy the ride. It's all about the journey and longevity, take the journey and not giving up. If you're not going to give up, you have to enjoy the journey. So it's enjoying the journey. I'm not here for the end result. I want the end result to be good. I want to, make money or whatever it is. But first of all, I want to enjoy what I'm doing. So it took me a while. It took me a long time in my career to focus on that. But I think the best thing for my career and also for my quality of life was to enjoy the journey. I do things that I enjoy doing. I look at what I'm doing as a calling or as something that is more than just a job. And I want to continue to do it. There's this in tech, in startups, exit. I'm not for an exit. Yes, I want to make money, but if an exit means I can't continue doing what I'm doing because somebody bought my company or I IPO'd it, which means I don't want. So I think the main thing I can say, and it's not a decision I made, it's whatever I do, enjoy what I'm doing, enjoy the journey.
And that's the best way to live. And the earlier you understand that, the easier it will be for you at the end.
I think that if one thing I could have done, next time I live again, I will start earlier. But another thing
Look,
is, I have to say, it takes time. Let's say I began really enjoying the journey in my late 40s. I'm not sure if I could have done it 20 years earlier because I just wasn't there yet in my mindset. So it all flows together.
as an industry veteran, how do you stay informed about the latest trends and developments in InsureTech? And are there any specific sources or platforms you rely on for staying ahead of the curve?
That's an excellent question. I think it's maybe the funnest part of what I'm doing. I love researching. In the olden days, we had to go to a library, open an encyclopedia. Today, I get a name, I read, let's say, a newsletter. I see a name of a company or a name of a person. I immediately Google it, find it on the web, research about it. If I don't understand it, I will ask our Gemini or GPT to explain it. By the way, I found that Gen AI, that can be very, very wrong, very, very wrong. So I don't trust, but it helps me sometimes when I'm trying to clarify things. And so I'm continuously researching and I enjoy it. I, by the way, not only do it, I mentioned quantum mechanics or sailing or surfing or skiing. I'll be always researching things. For instance, I try to stay on the cutting edge of property and casualty insurance, meaning that's all of the insurance lines except life insurance and annuities. I don't do life and annuities and only a little bit of health, but so anything about that. Primarily in the Western economy. I don't do it in places like, let's say, China or India, where it's all about growth, time maybe less. But for instance, in Western economy, it's more about there's an existing amount of risks that have to be insured. How do you insure them? There are new things like cyber and ESG, but basically, so I'm focused on insurance in the Western economy, property and casualty insurance, and new technology. So whenever I read something about that, it can be coming from an insurance company, it can be coming from a startup, it can be coming from McKinsey or BCG or from a university. I hear it, I see it, I dive into it. Where do I find things? Newsletters, on the web. I can be meeting people and they'll mention a name. I'll write the name down and afterwards I'll look at it. I'll mention the name of a company. And by the way, I could probably do that all day. And so it's really, really, really interesting. I am challenged because I prefer reading. I'm not good at listening to podcasts because it can take a long time, right? So I'm more a reader. And by the way, I practice mindfulness. So for instance, when I drive, I'm just driving. I don't listen to podcasts while I drive. I don't listen to the radio. I might listen to music. When I'm washing the dishes, I'm washing the dishes. I am not listening to something, not even music. If I'm working out or running or whatever, I'm not listening to music or podcasts. So I haven't yet enough gotten into the listening mod, but reading and research, and today the web and the availability is great, but I don't believe anything that is sent to me. Again, I go search for things. When I don't trust one source, I'll check sources, and definitely what is pushed to me, I do not believe, and which is really bad today. Things can be pushed at you. You can think it's the truth, and it's not. So I don't take anything at par value or at face value. And just getting back to Gen AI, Gemini, Bard, ChatGPT can be extremely wrong without any trace of that. They can be adamant in what they're saying, and they're extremely wrong. So I'm also very, very careful with that. But research I like doing, and so I can stay on the cutting edge.
Okay, great. Are there any professionals or leaders in your network who inspire you in your professional journey?
Many. I always say, I'm an advisor, I'm a consultant, I'm a director, whatever. I probably learn more from the people that I work with than they learn from me. Well, maybe they get as much from me as I get from them, but they pay me.
I thought you will say you learn from them more than they know.
By the way, I think that the capability of being open to learn from the people you work with enables you to know much more than each particular item. So it's like 1 + 1 can equal 3. And I try to be very open-minded. And so I can mention many, many people, the founding team at Planck, Elad and Damir, the people I worked with at Ernix, Sammy and Ruben. people I'm working with at Herald and Sayada, and the people that I haven't worked with, we just discuss. It's, I think, the opportunity, and that's why I'm also a big into meeting people in person. I still travel a lot, even after COVID. I like meeting people because I understand what's happening. I try to understand the problem. And so I'd say everybody that I meet, I try to learn from. But if I would have to say one person, I would like to mention Alan Bauer. Bauer is spelled Bauer, first name Alan. Alan, I had the opportunity of stumbling upon through someone in McKinsey, Conrad, who made the introduction. Must have been in 2007. I was a very young CEO, very early stage CEO at Ernix. Alan had just gone into retirement. Alan was the president of Progressive Direct in the United States from about 1980 until 2006. You can look him up. He's what turned Progressive into what it is today. Alan is one of the smartest people I know. He's even older than me, probably 5 years older than me. You know, very prominent background. He has an MBA from Chicago, but he knows insurance. He lived in insurance. He's very analytical, but he was the first person in the 1990s that brought Progressive to sell insurance over the web. And I had the honor of spending a lot of time with Alan. He visited us in Israel. I slept over at his house in Marin County, north of San Francisco, and we're in touch to this day. So if there's one person, I would say it's Alan Bauer.
In your opinion, what are the key trends shaping the future of the insurance industry, and how do you see AI and data analytics continue to impact it?
First, I think there's a huge opportunity for data analytics and GI in insurance. Once again, because the product is mathematics, okay? So the better you get the mathematics, the better you're manufacturing your product. It's all about assessing the risk. And if you can assess the risk better with machine learning, Gen AI, whatever it is, than standard statistics, you're going to be assessing the risk better. You're going to be able to price the risk better. More people can be insured and everybody is happy. That is one thing. And that's why I see the huge opportunity there. There are two major challenges. One is technology in insurance is very old. The software itself, the systems themselves have not been upgraded for many different reasons. There's a different mindset. In insurance, things take decades to build credibility. And when you're funding tech startups, you want things to take 5 years max. It just doesn't coincide. So it's difficult to get the venture funding with the patience for the results in insurance. And so that's challenge number one. And that's for any kind of technology. Challenge number two is pricing in insurance. Insurance is a regulated market. Everything has to be transparent. You have to know exactly how and why you're pricing. What are the parameters you're taking? Because otherwise you're regulated. You cannot price based on religion or in many places based on gender or based on location even sometimes. Mm-hmm. Some places you can use credit scores, other places. So you have to know how you're building your price. In basic statistics and GLM models and things like that, you know exactly the parameters you're using. But when machine learning comes in or generative AI, almost by definition, it is generating things or learning to do things, and you don't really know based on what. So potentially it could have found a roundabout way to price insurance based on gender, even though you're not allowed to price on gender in the European Union and the United Kingdom. Or to price based on a credit score in California, and you're not allowed to price based on a credit score in California. And so this transparency is the challenge. Now, the challenge is to the technology providers like myself. We have to provide a transparent way, even if it means the algorithms are not going to be good. That's why at Planck, we provide a lot of reasoning, explaining how the result was found, literally, and tracking, and enabling to have a chat so you understand where it came from. Also, the regulators will need to work with the technology providers because you have to give a little bit more room and guidance than just saying, show me exactly the parameters. I think that is a primary challenge. Adding to that, in the United States, there is an insurance regulator for every state, meaning there might be 350 million people in the United States, but there are 50 regulators for every state, which means if you're an insurance company covering the United States, you have 50 regulators to work with. United Kingdom, there might be 70 or 80 million people, but there's one regulator. So since the US is such a huge market, it's challenged even more, by order of magnitude, more challenging there to work with the regulator.
Wow, I didn't know this. Good to know. What are some common misconceptions or challenges you have encountered regarding the adoption of AI in insurance, and how do you address them in your role as a leader?
Interesting. I guess came from a meeting earlier today with another company. I worked with some of the most brightest people in the world, physicists, really doing fantastic things in insurance. And what happens sometimes is non-insurance people think these insurance people are just move so slow and that they don't get it. I can improve your profitability by, $10 million a year, 10 million euro, 10 million pounds a year by using this algorithm. And you, Mr. Insurance, you want to test it now for 3 years? You're leaving money on the table. Just do it. Well, that misconception, okay, by us technology people, there's a very good reason why the insurer cannot adopt technology, because you need actuarial history for a number of years. You don't know your loss ratios really until a year after the policy has been signed, or until there could be a tail on the policy. It can be 2 years. There's reasons behind that. The insurance company cannot default. They have to pay us. They have to have enough capital to pay us. There's a challenge for us to be able to understand that the decision process is very different in insurance. It takes longer. They need more proof. On the other hand, once they're a customer, once you're providing them value, they're yours forever. Literally, I have customers that have been working with companies 20 years, paying a lot of money every year and making a lot of money off of what they're doing and for the better of all. But it might have taken 2 or 3 years to get in. So the first challenge is for us technology providers to understand that mindset of the insurance, which is the biggest challenge, because many of us don't have the patience. Why should I work 10 years in this crazy insurance that I'll do marketing or advertising technology or human resources technology, whatever, something, just do something different. So that's number one. The second thing, the challenge is on the insurance companies to understand that sooner or later, they cannot continue not adopting the new technology. For instance, when I started working in insurance close to 20 years ago, the average life of a policy admin core IT system in insurance was about 20 years. Today, it's almost 40 years because they haven't been replaced. Some have, but don't get me wrong, there are great companies like Guidewire and Duck Creek that do that, Sapiens, but now it can't be 20 years from now, it's going to be 60 years old. It just won't happen. It can't be that, everything will be using in different ways, machine learning, and insurance won't. So sooner or later, somebody is going to come and move their cheese. Now, it didn't happen with Lemonade and Next and Oscar and all the other in great companies that haven't substantiated themselves as major players in insurance. Maybe the incumbent insurance companies were scared for a few years, maybe a year or two back, but they're not scared anymore. But they can't be complacent. So I think the challenge for the incumbent insurance, my friends who are running insurance businesses, is to understand the need for them also to work with us technology people to adopt this new technology.
As technology continues to evolve, how do you ensure that your companies remain agile and adaptable to future disruptions or innovations? And what steps do you take future-proof of your digital information efforts?
Extremely difficult. I live in the world of small companies, from one person to, let's say, 100 or 150 people, from no revenue to 30, 40 million. When it gets bigger than that, I get lost. And I think the fact is, why do even companies like Google, innovative company, and Facebook, why do they acquire startups? Because it's the innovator's dilemma. They can't. You cannot maintain. At Google, the people leave Google to start new companies. You can't maintain it. So I think part of the understanding is there's a lot of way to go, and you can lose a lot of hair taking a company from 0 to 20, 30, 40 million, right? But once you're there, or at some point along the line, you begin understanding that, okay, either I have to turn this now into a real business that is looking at different things in innovation, and be ready to acquire. Many companies, when they get to a certain size, they have to acquire the new technology. So the bottom line is you can't. I mean, you can, but the way to do it is different than when it was by acquisition and keeping an open mind. Google is very, very innovative, right? But they still do acquire. And one of the problems is you have customers. And in my book, customers come first. Nothing is more important than the customer. When you don't have customers, you can innovate a lot, right? And when you have customers, you learn from them, but you have to first support them. So at some point, you can't.
Okay, interesting. How do you navigate talent scarcity in the highly competitive fields of AI and data analytics? And what strategies have you employed to attract and retain top talents?
It's a challenge. It's a big challenge, especially today, looking primarily at software developers, data scientists, and that where if someone stays with you for 2 or 3 years, it's considered a long time. And where I come from, I work at companies for a decade plus. And in the olden days, 20 years ago, even software developers and engineers had worked 5+ years with a company, even longer. So it's a major challenge. Let's say it was worse a year or two ago when everybody was headhunting talent from other places. Today, it's a little bit quieted down because, the venture funding and things like that, companies are more challenged, people are staying in place, but still it's a very, very big challenge. And there are a few things. That's not something that can be, I don't see any panacea or golden solution. But number one is you have to be on the cutting edge of the technology, what the developers are using. Always, always, always using cutting edge and the newest tools and using the newest things to offer. Again, it's like your former question, this becomes problematic. If you have, let's say, 100 customers which are sitting on a few million lines of code and they've been with you for 10 years, you got to support them. So that gets difficult, and that's why people leave, maybe to younger companies. But so one is using the tools as very advanced tools. It being in a very advanced market. Again, I like working with startups and innovative companies because you're in a very advanced market. You can attract talent. But the company has to be successful, which is not always that easy. And it also has a lot to do with how you compensate your employees. I'm a big believer in high degree of equity compensation, meaning if the company is successful, the employee is successful. Unfortunately, today, that's not always enough because at places like Google, they'll pay them a high salary and a high equity. But that's part of striving to do the game. But it is a material issue. Definitely.
Okay. Recognizing the challenge of talent scarcity, many companies turn to IT outsourcing as a solution. Have you explored or considering IT outsourcing as a strategy to address specific skill gaps within your companies, and what factors influence your decision in the regard?
Very good question. Interesting. I just had lunch with the VP engineering of here at Planck, who's someone who worked at Google for many years. And I think the right way to do it is to have a part of the software outsourced, developed offshore in different locations at a steady state. And by the way, you see this at large companies. You'll see part of the product, part of the infrastructure, whatever is developed, is outsourced. But the question is how to do it in the smaller company and when. So I personally, at Ernix, we tried to do it and finally we had a VP engineering who had come from a large company that had outsourced, and he was able to get something going. Today, when we try to do things like that, challenge is in order to outsource something, it has to be very clear what's being done, and you have to know how to do it yourself or something that is like off the shelf. And so you first have to get to that stage or take something off the shelf. We haven't gotten there, for instance, yet at Planck, but one of the companies I work with, which is even smaller than Planck, from day one, part of their development was outsourced. And so the strategy, the architecture of the product, if you want, this component, we can define it and it can be written there, wherever that other place is. This component we're going to be writing. And from day one, they did like that and they've never looked back and it's extremely successful. So yes, I'm a big proponent of this. Have I personally been able to successfully use it? Not yet.
Got it. Yeah, there are different approaches in terms of IT outsourcing. You can start from the beginning of your journey and you can add, it's not only about outsourcing the solution, you can bring external experts who will work closely with your team, and all together, your in-house team, their team, they can work as one mechanism to build a solution that would resonate in the future.
That's very true, and I did not relate that point, and you're correct. We have used external. It's external expertise. Okay, I don't call it. It's not really outsourcing. It's sort of insourcing. They came, for instance, we did not have very good automated testing in one of my companies. We tried to do it ourselves. It didn't work. So we brought in an external organization that basically helped us build it and then moved on. Actually, we hired one of the people to stay with us And so that is a very, very good point. And this is a good example because we were all about developing the software. Engineers can do the testing, and after a while, no, you have to automate it, and especially when regression tests, that kind of stuff. And so that whole play we did with external resources, getting our team up to speed.
Yeah, that's the entire idea. In your opinion, what are the main advantages and disadvantages of IT outsourcing, and how do you navigate these factors to maximize the benefits while mitigating potential risks?
I'm a big believer in integrating the core and outsourcing the context. For instance, if my core technology is very advanced machine learning algorithms, and that's the core competency of my company, that will do in-house. But you can't sell a machine learning algorithm on its own. There has to be an envelope around it and has to integrate with other things. And so all of that stuff could be outsourced, okay? It's not that easy. Conceptually, it could be outsourced. Not always, because the stuff that is closer to the core probably couldn't. But if our expertise is we are data scientists, okay, or we know how to develop Gen AI models or whatever it is, let's just do that. The problem is you can't just sell that. So you have to integrate around it. It's sort of like the semiconductor world, okay? Today, a chip is designed, okay, a semiconductor chip is designed by very advanced, intelligent engineers someplace, and that's it. They outsource everything. It is entirely developed and manufactured someplace else, which requires a lot of expertise. So it's different in software, but to some degree, that's the same. What is my core competency? That is what we should be doing. That we should invest it. And we should continually strive to find things that can be taken off of our back and done by experts that do that. If it's APIs, integration, I don't know what, testing.
How do you foster collaboration and synergy between in-house teams and external IT outsourcing partners? Again, based on your experience, you can share within your experience with the quality assurance partner. And what strategies to employ to ensure effective communication, project management, knowledge transfer across different stakeholders?
I think this is like when you asked me my role models. Here is where I think one of the things, I'm 66 years old, but I'm still just a young kid with a dream. I want to be able to do just that. I want to be able to collaborate better between the teams in my organization, between integration and R&D and sales and R&D. It's a mess. By the way, at a company, our US team and our Israeli team and UK team, and they all work for the same company. It's not easy. So that kind of integration is what I try to do better. I have a long way to go. And it's the same thing if we have a developing team in Tel Aviv and in Kiev, or in Tel Aviv and in Warsaw. It doesn't matter. Or in Mumbai. It's the same thing. And so I'm still challenged to integrate between sales and engineering, and I'm both an engineer and a sales guy. Same thing here. I can say, what was successful in the cases where we were successful was very clear definitions. What is delivered from here and what is delivered from here. Also, a lot of joint work, meeting each other. Today, nobody works from the office, right? So what difference does it make if you're commuting, well, maybe once a week, but once a month to another city, which is a few hours flight, might be in a different country. So I think that finding that way to do it. Also, I've worked at companies, by the way. I was a director. I wasn't an executive manager. I was a director, but the engineering team, part of them were in the same country, but were literally 5 hours away. And it worked extremely well. Actually, they were acquired. First, they were like an outsource, and then they acquired the company. So it definitely works. I have not achieved that skill yet, but I'll follow you, Oleg, and sooner or later I'll learn how to do it.
Thanks, David. Thanks for your time. Amazing episode. Thanks for joining me. You're very interesting, experienced, and active person. I do believe that there is more than 24 hours in your day, for sure. Yeah, thanks for joining. If you enjoyed our discussion and want to stay updated on future episodes, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you will not miss on our latest insights and conversations from Devico Breakfast Bar. See you in a week.